I'm on disability now for about 10 years, and I have been homeless before. At one point between 2013 and 2015, sometimes that was sleeping on the ground behind a building. Sometimes it was, under a bridge by a river. I went ahead and moved into a unit it's less than ideal for me, but it's a roof over my head, and the interior is clean.
I live in Hendersonville, North Carolina, in a small duplex. It's a 3-bedroom tiny house that we share with our neighbors. And partially we do that because it's so difficult for us to find a place here in Asheville, and certainly not for the same price.
We rent here, and we love living in North Asheville, in part because we're near Beaver Lake, which of course, and near the Bird Sanctuary, which is an amazing place to go when we have the time. It's hard to have the time with this little one, but we rent.
I think we've seen about 4 homes now that we've put an offer on and had it accepted. But the thing that seems to keep happening is when the offer gets accepted and we go through all of the steps, we get to the part where there's the appraisal, and the house doesn't make appraisal. It doesn't. The appraisal for the house does not match what the actual house is worth. And so it's requiring an extra infusion of cash that we just don't have access to. I think in some cases it's been, up to $40,000, $50,000 difference between the appraisal and what was asking price. And in this market, there are people that will just bring the cash to pay that difference.
To get a voucher is fairly simple to start. You go down or call the Housing Authority of Asheville. They will send you an application that you fill out. Now from there, it's a minimal of a year wait time. It's just a wait because there are so many people on the list, there's so many people in need, and there's just not the housing stock.
It's impossible to live by yourself as a teacher in a multiple room house in Asheville. You just can't afford it. You have to have a roommate. In fact, the minimum rent was $1,200 a month for this small place. The people were super nice, but they were in a mortgage that, they were desperate to fix. And so they didn't have much wiggle room on the rent. And so it was just a very difficult experience because I couldn't afford it and I was out of options. And what I ended up having to do was rent a small room in an attic for $400 a month and have to pay all the utilities because $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 for a small house in Asheville on a teacher's salary, I just couldn't afford it.
It's incredibly disappointing, especially when the narrative folks give you, the experience we've had when we tell people about how hard it is to buy a house is they tell us, it must be because Black people don't understand finances well enough or they're not making enough. And so the resources we get are, here, can you learn more about mortgages, learn more about down payments? Are you learning how to improve your credit score? And all of that information for us at least is 5 years old. We did all the things.
Being a female, a single female, you have a lot of landlords that take advantage of you, and they care more about the money but not by all means, not all landlords, but it's kind of 50-50. Something has to be done so that people aren't sleeping outside and people aren't paying well over 50% of their income to live.
My family's been community leaders in Hendersonville, Asheville area for generations, and yet there's only one piece of land in my entire extended family that we own. And that's something that I think is a tragedy.
It feels almost like a defeat that the only way for us to find a home that has enough space for our family, allows us to raise kids, allows us to build generational wealth, is by going outside of the Asheville city limits. And I'll say, also in addition, as a Black person, that feels a little unsafe too. We've had some situations where folks were physically threatening us because of our race. And so the idea that we need to even leave the Asheville city limits to find a home is not just hard for us because it means that we've didn't buy a house in the place that we wanted, but it also meant that we're buying in a neighborhood that feels less safe for us.
Something has to be done. It's not sustainable at all. And having a roof over your head is a basic necessity.